welcome to the Metafix Editorial episode. I don't do this very often, but we have to, because every so often you need my opinion and my thoughts, etc. And this one's going to be a little less, these are usually based on fact, more on speculation, or just general opinions. So we enter the Q4 2017 watch list. 3 figures have been entered into the watch list. They include, from Joker's Wild, figure number 60, the lovingly called Ha 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 Joker, or just the Joker. From the con exclusive Muhammad Ali and Superman box set, the boxing ring. That guy right there. And we know him, we love him, the Unimind. I mean, we don't love him. He exists. Okay, so what's the watch list going to do with these? It's hard to say at this point. What could we do? What would I do if I was given the option? So on and so forth. These are all the important elements we have to ask when it comes to these specific items. I'm going to start with the most difficult to make a decision on, and that is a boxing ring. Now, for those of you not familiar, the boxing ring is special terrain. It costs 5 points, and it gets a map bonus if you happen to place on the sporting arena map. Now, its abilities, but when you place it, it's all got to be in clear terrain. When a character crosses the ropes in either direction, unless it can ignore hindering terrain for movement purposes, its movement ends immediately. If the character is not completely in or out of the ring, its movement may continue until it's completely in or out of the ring. Sorry, all the squares of it are clear terrain. So it's hindering walking into it, hindering walking out of it. Characters that occupy squares out of the ring modify their attack values by -2 when attacking characters in the ring. And this is the important part here. Characters that occupy squares in the ring modify their attack value by -2 when attacking characters out of the ring. And then the last part is characters in the ring modify their attack by +1 when making close attacks. So here's the thing about the boxing ring. Design intent was to entice you to walk into the ring and fight it out. But it's also had a high use value. Ultimately, if you're talking about what it's doing, the biggest problem we're looking at is that it's a double bounce in defense in examples where you have like energy shield. So if a character comes with a base energy shield, they're going to increase their defense by +1 at range, and then if they're hiding in the boxing ring, somebody shooting them into the boxing ring, your attack is -2, so it's a 4-point bump in their defense. And that is frustrating to a lot of people. Do I think it needs a fix? I think the boxing ring doesn't really need a fix in this case, because this is a game we've been playing for 15 years at range. Range has dominated this game, with the exception of the time when we were attacking with 4 attacks with our Ghost Riders, with the Heroes for Hire team ability, because we were able to move all the way up and then attack with it. That bonkersness was occurring back then. So we look at it now and we say, well, we're back to a time when range dominates, and I think the boxing ring forces characters into close combat, which, is a part of the game. That's my opinion on the matter. If I was to change it, -1 to the attack when you're outside of the ring seems reasonable, right? So if you're shooting out of the ring, -1 attack, shooting into the ring, -1 attack, that just -2 seems huge for a 5-point piece, and you're getting that universally. That's what I would do if I wanted to, if I was, twist my arm, gun to my head, you had to fix it. I think it doesn't need to be fixed as much as the fact that we need to adapt ourselves and start being ready to play teams that bring close combat to the table. And that's not going to be the popular opinion, but I do believe that this is not as much of a problem as we think it is. It's really just being used in a way that we weren't all ready for. So if it was me, -1 attacks instead of -2. Otherwise, just leave it. It's fine. All right. This one I've been bothered by since it showed up, since it previewed, and that is the Joker. Now, the reason the Joker is on the watch list, first of all, he's traded with Sidestep and Super Senses. The most frequently forgotten Super Senses I've ever seen in my life, by the way. But his trait, ha ha hoo hum, When building your force, the Joker costs 10 points for each escape token you place on this card. Minimum 3, maximum 5. So minimum 30 points, maximum 50 points. When the Joker heals or takes damage, remove 1 escape token from his card for each green or red line crossed. When there are no escape tokens on his card, KO the Joker. At the end of the game, if the Joker is KO'd, your opponent scores no points for the Joker and instead scores 10 points for each escape token that was removed, which is basically his cost. And then his other trait, at the beginning of the turn, you may roll a d6 and halve the result. When you do, either heal or damage the Joker that many clicks, and he can heal past his starting line. Now, it's a full 12 click dial, and he only loses escape tokens if he crosses these red or green line. Now, here's the complication in the matter. There are 6 squares between the first green line and the second green line, and the healing and damage is optional. These are the 2 big things. So if you were to do, on just the 30-point version alone, from dial to dial, kill it outright, you're talking about trying to deal 18 damage, minimum. If they happen to pay 50 points for the guy, you're looking at 30 damage you have to deal to a 50-point character. I don't care that his damage stays consistently at 1, because he does have blades on some of his clicks. He does have poison, which is free damage. He's got obnoxious defenses. He's got a wit at some points. He is not a non-threat at any point. And then that, you look at that and you think, well, this is a 50-point character. Why do I have to deal 30 damage to it? And ends up getting ignored for the entire game, or ends up fueling somebody's mastermind. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I've considered using this guy in combination with the Lex Joker duo and just throwing all my mastermind damage onto him. They'll have to deal 30. If he never heals or moves towards the line, he's going to take 30 clicks of health before a 200-point Lex and Joker have even been touched. So, now granted, there's Nick Fury's, the big grand scale of things, yes. This is part of that obnoxiousness that is super undercosted for the amount of clicks that you get. I mean, even a base value 30-point character, you're going to be lucky to get 4 clicks out of. We're happy to get a 4-click 30-point character. We look at that and go, wow, that's amazing. Or, a 6-click dial for 30 points is insane. We're talking about an 18-click dial for 30 points. That doesn't make sense. In addition to which, if you have done less than 6 damage, chances are, if you've done any damage, he's just going to heal it back up. Or he's just going to move his dial to a position that's a little bit more affordable to him. So, fundamentally, every part of the mechanics of this particular Joker is busted. It's broken in half, and it doesn't make any sense as far as a point cost scenario goes. Now, you're ready to be welcomed to the hard part. How do you take this character and fix it and make it make sense? Right? That's a heck of an undertaking to have to do. You can't touch the dial because the lines are there. You could maybe set a base damage number on how to remove the escape tokens, but that's a lot of effort that a player is going to have to take into it. I think if anything can get touched about the values or about this Joker at all, it's got to be his point value. I mean, the fact that he comes with the super senses and traded sidestep, both those 2 powers alone on 4 clicks is worth a 30-point dial. Let's not kid ourselves, right? You might need to increase the cost per token on the escape tokens to like 30 or 20. I'm going to lean more towards the 30 because I still think a 60-point character with 18 clicks of health makes no sense. Even a 90-point character with 18 clicks of health is borderline. So a true fix would be lose an escape token every 3 or 4 damage. We'll say 4 and ignore the starting lines. Or you include the starting lines as part of the healing still. Or I don't know how to fix this guy fundamentally, because here's the challenges they're going to run into with fixing it. The dial, like I said, is printed, so there's a 6-click space. The points are on there, and that's probably going to be the thing that gets fixed because we did it with Bizarro in the past. The trait, sidestep, super senses can stay. It's really going to be in the pointing, I think. And I think if they're... The best solution is to double, maybe triple the point cost on the escape tokens. It's the best I can come up with, honestly, that changes the least amount about what's on the dial. So, my thoughts, again, not necessarily what they're going to do. I like to put this out there just in case somebody is watching and they need some input. I've got my experiences as they are. All right. The one that caused cheering, a little bit of jeering, we're going to talk about the Unimind. Unimind has ignore hindering and shoot out of base for line of fire purposes. Forged in Blue Flame is the thing that people talk about a lot, and he's actually got two problems to this character. Forged in Blue Flame, during force construction, you may include a number of different characters in your sideline with the Eternal keyword, adding 5 points to Unimind's point cost for each. If it starts at 150, you may include up to 3. If it starts at 275, you may include up to 5. If it starts at 370, you may include any number. The included characters must be used at their highest point value and be turned to their starting click. At the beginning of each turn, and whenever Unimind takes damage, you may choose one standard power a chosen character can use, and Unimind can use that power until it chooses again. When Unimind would be KO'd, instead replace him with all the chosen characters on the last non-KO clicks, placing them within 4 squares of it. Those characters can't be healed this game, and the trait is Protected Pulse Wave. And then he's got another trait, Channel Vast Reserves of Cosmic Energy. Free until your next turn. Unimind can't use the Power Cosmic Team ability, but he can use Perplex and Willpower. When he uses Perplex, it may modify a combat value by +2 or -2 instead. This turn, it may use Perplex an additional time for every 2 characters with the Eternal keyword in your sideline that it can choose powers from. Then it's got a stop click across several of its clicks that say stop Impervious Regeneration, and he's got that on his last click of each line. So if you start him at 370, it's 3 clicks in, and then 3 clicks in, another 3 clicks in, and then on the last click. If you start him at 150, it's the 5th click in. If you start him at 275, he's the 3rd click in, and then the last click. Here's the story of Unimind and the issues that we're having with him right now. Long and short of it, he is really strong in a game that's been dialed back a lot. Him and Jakeem Thunder stand out a lot. And a lot of people scream, if Unimind goes away, Jakeem Thunder comes back. Jakeem Thunder has been managed in the past by some teams. And, I think he's more compatible than right now this is. Now, that's not to say I think this guy is super broken. He's super powerful. He's super potent. And he's also probably the hardest 5 clicks of health to get through. It's really not an easy task to get through this dial, and it's a very daunting task. Big strengths to him. The fact that he's Protected Pulse Wave on his choice power means that he, we don't have the universal get out of jail free Pulse Wave option against him. Now, granted, Pulse Wave is currently very limited in availability right now, but, still the point we're saying is that we use Pulse Wave to get around stuff like this. Now we can't with this guy. What's more is the way that rules work in conjunction with how defense powers, attack powers, damage powers are identified when being referenced on a character's ability. A lot of us look at Unimind and say, why not just chase Green Arrow him? And then those of us who are familiar with the rules will correct the people who are saying that and remind them that when a power references a specific slot, or the defense slot, attack powers, so when it says attack power, damage power, defense power, or whatever, on the dial, or on the power, they're specifically referencing what's in that slot on the card. What that means is if Unimind picks Invincible, your Green Arrow's gonna have a bad day. So it's not just Protected Pulse Wave. Given the new rules, since he's also Quintessence, he's Protected Outwit unless he uses his Perplex, which we're going to get to in a second. And he's also Protected Green Arrow. And that's one of the big sticking points that a lot of people are going to have with him. He's able to deal with whatever the 2 guys that we usually use to deal with stuff like this do. What's more, his Perplex power is the most potent Perplex that's ever perplexed. He takes a penalty, but he's able to give +2 or -2 to any stat. Now, I want to go through a recent history of characters that can use +2 to perplex, and with the exception of the Eternals, all of them say any combat value except damage. In addition to which, all the other Eternals, when they use their perplex, get rid of their power cosmic and go outwit, or willpower and perplex. Their +2 perplex is very limited to themselves. Unimind is allowed to use his perplex as though it's perplex at a +2 or -2, however he feels. That's super potent. And therein lies the challenge on Unimind. How do you do it without breaking the game? How do you do it without breaking the rules? It's really difficult. I postulated about this a lot, and here are the possible solutions I came up with. First, his perplex is +2s. I think his +2s should only be to himself. Like the other Eternals, if he's giving +2, it's only to himself. If it's targeting an opponent, it's -1s, and I think we'll still be fine. Honestly, I don't think the offensive perplexes were used that frequently. So if you want to go extreme, the fact that he's using multiple perplex could facilitate the fact that it only makes sense to use it at a +1 as many times as he's able to use it. Thought 1. That's the kind of in passing whatever thought. Because the other thing too is if he is using the perplex, unless he's really going to town on killing something, it's the thing was going to die anyway. And then he's, as long as you can get there, he's outwittable. So if you can play a numbers game against him, you can get a lot done. The other solution, the extreme solution, is actually my last one. The next reasonable solution, let's say, and I only suggest they do one of these. I don't think they should do all of them because you don't want to nerf this character into oblivion. People are liking him. People are looking at him. People are using him. We want him to still be usable. If you don't change the perplex, remove the protected pulse wave from the other trait. It's really, really a potent thing to it. Plus, he is still going to be protected outwit and pulse wave on his defense power, or sorry, his special defense power, his stop click, as it were, because a stop click gets protected outwit, protected pulse wave. So I think that's a reasonable-ish solution if you don't go with the perplex solution. Now, removing both of those solutions, let's talk about the grand scale possible solution to this. Again, on the extreme, and this is actually not just against Unimind. When we make a change to the rules, and this is where I'm going with this, and we're streamlining the game. So, if I choose a defense power on the Unimind, it is a defense power. And therefore, we shouldn't be using the slot identifier specifically to do that. That is the grand scale, oh my gosh, let's break everybody who's got something like this. Because it's not just going to have an effect on how Unimind is going to interact with the we wish he was a counter still Green Arrow. It's going to affect Jakeem Thunder in this case too, because Jakeem Thunder, when he picks a defense power, well, Green Arrow is going to be able to ignore it in that case as well. Because right now, again, Jakeem Thunder, doesn't matter if he chooses a defense power, he's also kind of Green Lantern proof, Green Arrow proof. I do have to lean to the next point though, the next major point about the Unimind's problem, and Unimind's problem isn't just Unimind. It's Nighthawk Prime. In combination with him, what is the most important thing we want to do when we're trying to hit something on the scale of a Unimind is increase our stats. And that's another counter that's kind of been hurting the Green Arrow Nick Fury strategy. But at the same time, Nighthawk Prime's been here for as long as he has. He's got 9 months left on the docket, whatever, right? If you do make that change to the rules that I suggest, that means Uniminds are still going to be able to survive Green Arrows because Nighthawk Prime is still a part of that team. It just means the future proofing for him is gone. Now, again, I'm going to stress, this has been an editorial. I don't necessarily have any say or sway in the way WizKids runs their product. I think they've been doing a fantastic job so far, and every so often things do get slipped through the cracks. They're listening to the players right now, and I know I have rolled my eyes a dozen times, I think, a day when people talk about this Joker. I know I am bored about talking about the Unimind, but that's just because he's the strongest thing out there. We're going to find the next strongest thing anyway. It's almost unavoidable. It's just a matter of dealing with these things right now. And the boxing ring, again, like I said, it's only really affecting us because, you know, I think the big problem with the boxing ring is a mental state we get in when it's like, oh my gosh, they paid 5 points. Now my long-range team is going to have a hard time hitting my opponent. You should have planned for a close combat contingency plan. You mean, like, these are the things you got to consider. So, long story short, I think big pictures that the Joker's point value needs to be dealt with, and the Unimind I don't think needs to be dealt with as harshly as we all think it needs to be dealt with. Now that I'm done the editorial portion of this, let's talk about how we deal with these things right now. The Joker, you ignore it. Unimind, you either you consistently hit it hard with a lot of hits. I know, easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. Or you give it death by 1,000 cuts. And by death by 1,000 cuts, I mean you take your Pog team full of, full of Blaze Claws, because there's lots of Blaze Claws Pogs out there, and then you throw a Swordsman ID card on your round table, and you start taking flurry pot shots whenever you can start doing that. You use Ameridroids to get Uniminds out of position. It's one thing that's been consistent about a lot of the teams that I have played against Uniminds is when you throw an Ameridroid on there, if the Unimind takes a target, great. He hits something. I generally didn't care about the target that he hit because now the Ameridroid is going to put him in an obnoxious position, and then maybe I'll throw him on Bifrost. There are ways of dealing with the Unimind. He can be killed. He's just really hard to kill, and that's the thing. We got to put that extra effort and thought into managing this figure in the meantime. But we'll see what WizKids comes up with for their watch list. I think out of all of them, the Joker needs the most amount of mathematics applied to it because honestly, the points don't add up on him. Anyway, that said, I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys like the, share your opinions, what you think should happen. Again, like I said, in a lot of these cases, I don't think the changes should happen. The only one I really think should happen is really the Joker. And that's an easier one to mitigate than the other two. I don't want any of these nerfed into oblivion. I still want them usable, but I need some realism attached to the design on some of them. So that's my thoughts. Have a good one, guys. And remember, if you come up with ideas on how to deal with this stuff, remember, get some practice, because practice will make your team better.